My name is Howard Berry. I'm the father of the late Staff Sergeant Joshua Berry. My son died of wounds that were sustained during the first Fort Hood shooting. For those of you that don't remember, it took place on November the 5th of 2009. Nidal Hasan murdered 13 and wounded 32. You won't find Josh listed among the killed or the wounded. He didn't exist. The Army forgot about him. It has recently come to my attention that the Army is going to award Purple Hearts and Freedom Medals to some of the victims of the Fort Hood shooting. My son is not included among those to receive a Purple Heart, even though he meets the criteria. And I don't understand. I don't understand how the Army can turn their back on their own people. Hundreds of men and women that were exposed to the violence there at Fort Hood have been left behind. The only folks that were given any consideration when the charges were filed were those that sustained gunshot wounds. For all intents and purposes, the rest of them weren't there. The first responders, the medics, and the people that ran toward the gunfire trying to save lives, no combat action badges for them, no combat medic badges, no recognition. I don't understand. Since my son's death, I have been lied to, misdirected, or ignored by our country's finest. The White House, the DOD, the Army, Congress, and the VA. President of the United States told my son he has his back. You're going to get what you need to make you whole. Didn't happen. After his death, I reached out to the chief prosecutor of the trial, Colonel Mike Mulligan. I wanted to see if they would go ahead and file an additional murder charge against Nidal Hasan. It took 3 months. Finally, I spoke to the colonel, and he told me he couldn't understand why I was calling. He told me that my son was in good hands, that he was being monitored, that the Army was keeping close tabs on him. I buried him 3 months before the call. I asked the colonel how the monitoring's working. I don't understand. You need to check on the other people that you're monitoring. Colonel Mulligan also told me that my son was not there. I can't believe it. I attended the trial. I did speak to the colonel. He didn't even know that there were 1st Infantry Division troops at Fort Hood. You see, the only people that were given any consideration, the only thing that the Army knew how to do was count bullet holes. Since my son's death, I've written letters to Congress, every single member of the 113th Congress. I've written the President twice. I even contacted Joe Biden's office. I got a total of 8 responses. I got thrown out of offices. I've been hung up on. Don't our men and women in uniform deserve a little more consideration? Vice President Biden's folks, the best I could do for them was to get a fax number. I couldn't get an email. A fax number, the most transparent administration in American history. Really? Really? It's not just the folks that are going to be awarded these medals, their families, our lives are changed forever. You know? Don't these men and women, when they sign up, don't they think, well, does somebody have my back? Does somebody have my back? Mr. Obama has told my son, I have your back. Didn't happen. What kind of message are you folks sending to the men and women that are still in uniform? That if something bad happens to them, are they on their own? Are you going to stand up for them? The Army deserves a black eye for what they have done. The Army deserves to be held accountable for not standing up for all of the people that were involved there. And I asked these folks, if this were your son, how would you feel? If this were your loved one, what would you do? I hope and pray that my family can heal. I worry about my daughters. I worry about everyone that was exposed to that horror and has been left behind. My son is a forgotten soldier. I even had to fight for a grave marker. They wouldn't recognize his rank. I don't understand. We're better people than this. We are better people than this. And as far as the folks at the DOD, why can't you just simply tell the truth? It's so easy. The Fort Hood shooting was a terrorist act, yes or no? These people were there, yes or no? How hard is it? You spend more time trying to cover it up than you do telling the truth. God bless you. Thank you for listening to this. I miss my son.